What's up guys, it's Chris with Killer Arcade Games, and today I thought I'd go through my cabinets and see how they've held up. So I made my first Arcade1Up mod in late 2018. It was the Killer Instinct cabinet. At that point there weren't very many tutorials around and I just kind of did it on my own and figured it all out. Then from there I had so many people show interest in it that I decided to make my own video on how to mod an Arcade1Up. That went really well. Lots of people used that original video, and then I ended up modding more Arcade1Ups, so I started to learn what worked and what didn't work. So when I did my Mortal Kombat 2 Arcade1Up mod, I made a whole new video on how to mod an Arcade1Up. I changed a few things that I'd learned from the previous mod, stuff that didn't work that I wanted to alter for the new one, and I think it all came out pretty well. The new video is done well. That was released a year ago, and I don't really feel any need to make another one of those, but I thought I'd go through these cabinets, show you guys how they're holding up after years and years of use now. Well, years and years, more like maybe 3 years, but still. See how they're holding up, and I'm going to tell you a few things that I would have done differently. I am going to include this video now in that old How to Mod an Arcade1Up video, just in case people want to watch this first to see what they want to change along the way. So first off, I'll open up the Killer Instinct cabinet, by far the oldest Arcade1Up mod I have, and we're going to see how it's held up. Let's take a look. So first of all, let's look at our Killer Instinct cabinet. This was the very first mod that I did. This one is held up okay. You can kind of see this is something that started soon after the art is peeling off. And what's interesting is I think it's actually the print that's peeling off, because the backing underneath here is white, or what is underneath here is white. And it makes me think that the adhesive maybe is still stuck to the black cabinet, and that's what I'm seeing. That may pose a problem for adding new art. This cabinet's about to be fully redone as far as art goes, so you'll see that in an upcoming video. But looking at the deck, as far as how it's held up, it's a little dirty and dusty, and stuff has gotten underneath the art here because of these holes around the buttons. This did crack. My wife did that on accident while vacuuming. I don't really blame her for that. But otherwise, that's the original monitor that was in this when I bought it. It's probably had 1,000 hours of use so far. No problem. Of course, that's a new light-up marquee I did a video on recently. I have added these light-up buttons, and that's one of the things that I do recommend you do in the future. These are from Laramie, who runs Retro530. Originally, I just had black buttons up here, and that was my coin buttons. And I realized somebody who doesn't know how to use this cabinet is never gonna realize, or never gonna figure out where these black buttons are. They're not just gonna see them and realize what they're for. These actually tell you, push for credit. So people can walk up to it, press the button, get right into the game. And then I added a black button in the center here. That's the exit button. I'm okay with that being black because I don't want people accidentally pressing it. Cabinet-wise, the screws I found before I started this video, they were a tad loose, probably from me moving the cabinet around. These cabinets will shift around when you're playing them, but a few of them were loose, no big deal. All right, going around the back of the cabinet, it's now opened up in here. Other than me not being great at cable management, everything is held up surprisingly well. This is the video converter board, or whatever that's called. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but this was just stuck on with Velcro, and to my surprise, it's held up. Spoiler, we'll look in other cabinets, but some of my other cabinets I've found that this will eventually wear out. This thing gets pretty hot, this little processor here, and I guess it heats up the glue, and eventually it just falls off and dangles down there, which I truly hate. So I was actually lucky enough to be able to stick it to this here. This is just wood. If I were to change something in the future, I would put the little feet on it, the motherboard kind of feet that I can link to, and that will actually keep it up off there. You will have to screw into the back of your monitor board, but I think it's worth it. So when I did do my updated How to Mod an Arcade1Up video, I only recommended you use these PCs now. I know if you have one lying around, in my original video I said use any PC you have lying around to keep it cheap. That's great and all, but this thing is running an SSD. It's probably hard to see, but it's over there. No hard drive on this thing. This PC is an HP Elite desk. It's what I always link to now. It's really quiet. No moving parts in it other than the fans, really. I mean, you just have the hard drive, which is now the SSD, like I mentioned, and that thing is hopefully gonna last a very long time. It also makes it incredibly fast to boot up. This thing boots up. I can be from startup to playing a game in under 1 minute with these PCs, so I highly recommend these. I will leave a link to these in the description. They're also in my new How to Mod an Arcade1Up video. Originally I had a decased PC that was just sitting here, and this is actually what held down the power supply, and that worked fine, but eventually, you know, it took like 2.5 minutes to fully boot up because it was old, and I just got tired of waiting on it really when I got the newer PCs. So I just swapped this one out and it's been going strong for many hundreds of hours ever since. So there's more Velcro here. I did find better Velcro. It is on the new How to Mod an Arcade1Up video. That's kind of holding this stuff in, this here. This one's kind of hanging a little just because it's heavy, and it is still holding up pretty well though. The subwoofer is held down by the new stuff. The PC is held in by that new stuff, and they're very big strips of it. You could probably tip this cabinet to the left here and that PC would not fall off. So I highly recommend that stuff. Again, there's a link in the How to Mod an Arcade1Up video. I'm gonna try to leave links to all this stuff in the description of this video though. Now we're taking a look underneath the control deck. This is where I would change something for sure. I originally stuck this on with more Velcro here. It's kind of hard to tell. And that is falling off. That board is actually pulling away pretty bad. When I do my Killer Instinct upgrade, I can guarantee I'm gonna be putting those motherboard feet on to hold those up. But at the time, I was like, just use some double-sided tape or this Velcro stuff, and ultimately it didn't work out in the long run, really. I would recommend if you're using this and you did use my video, if yours isn't falling off, maybe leave it alone, but if it is, you might try putting those motherboard feet on there. It helps quite a bit. All right guys, quick interruption to this video. Funny enough, I recorded this video, uploaded it to YouTube, had it scheduled for release earlier last week, and then when I sat down to do a live stream early last week, I found my Mortal Kombat 4 was no longer working. It turned on, the lights all came on, I could hear the game playing blind, and if you're unfamiliar with that arcade term, playing blind, and I do feel okay using an arcade term, by the way, all you Arcade1Up haters, I do feel okay using an arcade term because this has the arcade PCB inside, which scared the crap out of me because I thought, oh no, my board went bad or something's wrong with my board. And I don't think that's the case. It's playing blind. I'll show you guys inside on a next week's video. I'm actually gonna make a part 2 to this. I'll show you guys inside. I believe it's just a little cheap sideboard that actually converts the arcade signal to a LCD monitor screen signal or HDMI signal. So I think that's all it is, but look out for another video after this one coming up that's gonna show you guys more about MK4. And I'm gonna talk more about Star Wars, which wasn't really talked about in this video, so look for that next week and enjoy the rest of this video. Mortal Kombat 2 was my second Arcade1Up mod, and I want to say I improved on that because this is the video I used to actually make the second video on how to mod an Arcade1Up video. This one definitely got some of the upgrades and things I learned from previous videos. However, I did still use an old PC in this cabinet, and this PC actually failed on me. One day I was trying to play it, it died on me. It would just be on for a little while, and all of a sudden it would turn itself off completely out of nowhere. So I tried all kinds of things, replaced the power supply, replaced all kinds of parts on the PC. Eventually I said screw it and bought an HP Elite desk and never looked back. Those computers are really a great value for what they are. But let's pop this one open and see how it's done. I do have one quick note, by the way. This is a replacement monitor. The original monitor didn't fail, but it was bad from the beginning. I had a really bad dead pixel right here. Thank you to Dwayne of D's Games. He actually just sent me a monitor for free. He had one, I guess an extra one lying around. Very kind of him. So this is actually Dwayne's monitor running in here. It's helped a lot. It looks so much better. And real quick, before I turn it around, let's take a look under here. You can see I learned from my mistakes on this one. Of course, it's a mess, but you can see the little motherboard feet that are holding it on, and these do not fall off, which is great. Okay, looking in the back of the Mortal Kombat one, I did realize that this was falling off a couple weeks ago when I got in here for another project. This panel was not holding anymore, this board. I stuck it on with the typical Velcro. It did not work out. As you can see, this little sideboard's just kind of hanging off. That board's not nearly as important, so I just stick it back on. This one did not hold well, so I do recommend get you some of those. They're quite cheap. I'll link to them in the description. This was from a failed project, by the way. I was going to try to wire up, this was gonna be the service menu access button, and then I realized, well, now I gotta use a whole nother USB board, and I just kind of blew off the whole project. Ever since then, this has just been sitting here and I've just kind of left it. I did actually salvage the 2 feet though to put on here to keep that board running, mainly out of being lazy. I didn't want to go dig them out of the closet. Well, once again, we've got the HP Elite desk running in here, and this was a PC that failed. I had a whole decased PC sitting down inside of here. Over here, we've got the 2 power supplies. Why do I have 2 power supplies? Well, because I had to. I had an extra one. Here's for my monitor or the marquee light, and this one's for the monitor or the marquee light. I truly can't remember Okay, this one seems to power the monitor, this one powers the marquee light. No particular reason for that, just did it because I had an extra one. Not exactly sure where this dust is coming from. Oh, never mind, it's probably from when I screwed those in. So, whoops, never cleaned that up. Dust right there, but otherwise, this one's held up nicely. One failed computer, but it was a very old computer anyway, and can't really complain. Once again, I'm not great at cable management. I know you guys are probably having a heart attack. Some of you guys are. And here is Blitz. This was my third build. Now, if you remember correctly, MK4 was actually my third cabinet, but I did not build that cabinet. NFL Blitz was my third build. A lot of lessons were already learned by that point. This cabinet came out beautifully, I think. Looks like, I don't know what's with the art coming off on these corners, but looks like the art is starting to come off a little bit there. I've never actually noticed that till right now. Otherwise, this one's held up pretty well. I'm gonna dive into it and take a look in the back. I haven't been in this one in probably 7-8 months, so let's see what's going on. So before we actually open this one, it's probably a good time to talk about one other thing I would do differently. This cabinet was getting very, very warm inside. I didn't realize it at the time, but I opened it one day and I could feel a huge amount of heat came out. So I decided to install a fan. I tried to avoid this for a long time because this does put out some noise, and I don't want the room humming with noise when all the attract modes are off. But in order to keep things running a long time, I decided to go ahead and install the fan. I have a whole video on how I did this. I'll link to that in the description also. Fans have been added to all of my cabinets now. Here's the back of the MK2. This is actually a fancier fan, one of those AC Infinity ones, and I thought by spending more money on a fan, it would actually be quieter, but it's really not even that much quieter than these cheaper 2-pack fans. And when I say 2-pack, I don't mean like Tupac Shakur, I mean fans that are coming in a 2-pack. The only plus this one has, this is the AC Infinity in the Mortal Kombat 2, is you can turn it down at least. When you put it on high, it's actually quite noticeable. When you put it on medium, I think it still sucks enough heat out and it actually is pretty quiet. But still, I think it's better just to buy the 2-pack of fans if you have more than one cabinet you want to put them in. I don't have any air intake fans. It just sucks in through the hole on the back of the cabinet. Well, I totally forgot I did this. This was one of those cabinets where this cord is not long enough to put the, put the actual board down here on the wood. And you can't just stick any PCBs to metal, by the way. It will cause all kinds of problems. Just don't do it. If you're new to this and that doesn't really make any sense, just promise you don't put it on metal. Put something between it. So what I did here was took a piece of cardboard, flat cardboard. I literally Gorilla taped it to the back and then used double-sided Velcro stuff, that sticky stuff on there, and just stuck the board to it. I gotta say, it's holding though. It has not come off once. It's pretty sturdy on there. I'm not gonna pull on it too much. Let's not create a problem. Looking down in the cabinet, I see a little bit of dust here. I'll explain that later. And, oh, and there it is. I've been wondering where that is. See that screw down there? So, this screw is actually coming from one of the joysticks. This cabinet gets beat up a little bit more. As you guys know about Blitz, it can be a very frustrating game. The game cheats a lot. And when I was banging away on the control deck playing one day, I heard a clunk, and that screw fell out of one of the joysticks. That's what's holding it in, one of 4 of those. So I don't know what this problem is or why I'm having this problem. These are wood screws. Maybe somebody who's really handy could tell me what kind of screw I should be using, but I need to get that out of there and get it back in the deck, that's for sure. Here's, again, the power supply held on by Velcro. It looks like it's actually coming off a little bit, but it hasn't fallen. I'm gonna leave it alone for now. And once again, here we have an HP Elite desk. This was the game that actually got me to try these computers out. And this stresses this computer. It definitely runs it smoothly. You'll get a few audio stutters on foggy fields and fields with a lot of stuff going on. You get a few audio pops and stutters, but otherwise it's good. One thing you'll probably notice that I haven't mentioned yet, there's no side panel on any of these PCs. I decided to start taking them off to give them more airflow. Just let a ton of air come in and go out. I could feel heat coming out of this exhaust right here, right now. So it's probably good to just go ahead and leave the side panel off. It's worked well for me. It keeps things a little bit cooler. And just a side note on Blitz, this has still been running the exact same PC for the exact same amount of time. I do want to point out something though. This one has never been changed. Like I said, this is the game I primarily run, Blitz 99. So when it's just sitting here running and not being played, It's running Blitz 99, and check out that total uptime. 22 days, 11 hours, 10 minutes, and 8 seconds that this game has been running on this cabinet. So that's a pretty good amount of runtime, I think. The PC's been put through its paces. This game does stress this PC a little bit, and it's done really well. I thought you guys might want to actually see how much time it's been used. It's been played only for about 2% of that entire time, but still, it doesn't get played all that much, but it's such a good looking cabinet. I love having it on and running. The controls have been great. In fact, the controls have been great on all these cabinets. You guys know I don't go cheap on the controls. Every cabinet's using HAP sticks, HAP buttons, and they've not seen anywhere near enough work to even consider them being bad by now. If anything, I always say these buttons and sticks will be here long after the cabinet. But if you look at all of them, they're all running HAP, everything's working great. Never had a single problem with a switch, button, joystick, everything's worked just fine. I don't consider Carnival worth looking into just yet. Everything's been fine. I've had a few gun problems, but they've been fixed. Most stuff I have problems with is software. It's such a pain to keep light gun stuff running smoothly, it seems like. Otherwise, the cabinet's held up. There is no fan in this cabinet, and with its compacted size, you know, the cabinet's actually only that big since I cut the top off to put the TV on top. With its small size, it stays surprisingly cool. I'm gonna try to hold off on making any sort of fan addition to this one, but if we have to, I'll just do it. Okay guys, in closing on this video, let's just recap everything I talked about. Definitely consider adding a fan to your cabinets, especially if you're gonna be running really high-powered games like Killer Instinct, NFL Blitz. Those games just pull a lot of power from the CPU and generate a lot of heat. So I think it's a good idea to actually have a little bit of airflow. You don't have to go crazy. It seems to be working well just to have that one exhaust fan up high, pulling the heat out of the cabinet. So consider that for sure. I'd also highly recommend skipping the Velcro on the PCBs, like the circuit boards, like your monitor board, your controller boards. They work sometimes, and in some cases they fail miserably. So just get it out of the way, use those motherboard feet, and that'll help you a whole lot. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little bit longer than I normally like to make these videos, but consider it more of like a vlog of sorts, going through these cabinets and seeing what's happened to them over the years of use. I'm still quite impressed with how these have held up. I don't really have any complaints. Once again, though, this is not being under any sort of stress. You know, it's just a normal single adult in here mainly playing these. So it's hard to get a real world idea of how these would hold up in an arcade setting. Maybe some of you guys with kids and you know, friends that come over frequently can tell me how yours have held up. I am very interested to hear, especially if you used my How to Mod an Arcade1Up video. How well have your cabinets held up and all the components inside? So leave me a comment, let me know how it's held up for you, and until next time guys, give me a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.